I think more than 75% of your career and your company's success comes down to communication. I think it comes down to how well your owners and operators communicate with the people in your organization that are actually doing the work. I always have known this was important, but I've realized it more and more the last few years. And I had a shocking phone call with a colleague within the last couple of weeks that made me want to do a whole episode on this. This brand is having a rough start to this year. They had a really good year last year, and this CMO has been there for a couple of years now. But their CMO called me and he told me he thought he was about to get fired. He was freaking out. And I was like, whoa, what's going on? Last I heard, everything was great. It's been a good couple of years with you there. What is happening? And he said his CEO is super frustrated with him. He doesn't like that performance is bad to start the year, and he's acting like the CMO doesn't have a clue about how to fix it. I said, okay, first of all, take a deep breath and calm down and talk him off the ledge a bit. But secondly, I asked him, why does your CEO think those things? Is there anything that you might have told him to make him lose confidence in you after just 3 weeks of rough performance after what's been a strong couple of years? And he told me that he told his boss that performance sucked and he didn't know why. And I was like, well, no shit, dude. Nobody wants to hear that. Then he went on to tell me that since performance started dropping, he started giving his boss multiple updates throughout each day of how that day was trending, what their conversion rate was, what their ROAS was, what their click-through rate on their new Facebook ads are. The boss didn't ask for any of that, but by obsessing over it and by just word vomiting all these performance updates several times a day, it clearly showed the boss that things were not okay, and he did what bosses do. He wanted to fix it. He got involved. But to his employee, it felt like his job was now being threatened. So now you've got a CMO who's panicked, maybe looking for other jobs. And you've got a CEO who wants things to get better, but doesn't actually know what the CMO is thinking. So they wouldn't have fixed anything if they stayed on that path. After a couple more questions to the CMO, I asked him things like, why is performance bad? And he said, I don't know. And I said, yeah, you know. Of course you know. Why is performance bad? He's like, oh, our cost to get someone to the site's really expensive. Great. Why is it expensive? Facebook CPMs are up. Okay, great. Is your CTR the same as what it's been? Yes? Okay, cool. So it's probably not a creative issue. Facebook's just more expensive. Find a new place to advertise. He's like, oh yeah, makes sense. They fired up a couple of ad channels that they're already on, but they started investing in them more heavily, and performance has improved. This is a very simple problem that any CMO, this CMO, would have fixed easily if he remained cool-headed about it. But because he didn't, things almost spiraled to a point of no return. That's why I believe so strongly that how we communicate matters. So whether things are good or bad, or if you know exactly what the problem is, or if you don't, you need to be able to communicate with leadership effectively to keep the ship headed in the right direction. And this isn't about manipulating anyone. This isn't about trying to make performance seem like it better than it actually is. That's not what this is. The ultimate goal here is to steer the conversation towards productivity. Steer the conversation towards solutions rather than problems. Steer the conversation forward so you can continue to grow the business without anybody's emotions getting in the way. So today we're going to walk through 4 scenarios, and I'll teach you how I communicate to leadership during each of those times. We're going to look at when performance is good and you know why. It's my favorite. Love those times. We're going to look at what to do when performance is good and you don't know why. That happens. We're going to look at when performance is bad and you know why, and we're going to go over the nightmare scenario of performance is bad and you have no clue why. This episode of Tactical and Practical is sponsored by Intelligems. If you don't know already, they are our go-to one-stop profit optimization shop. It's a platform that allows you to test every element of your website, from prices to content to themes. And the work that we've done on that platform in the last year has been a massive driver of our growth, as we've tripled the size of our yearly revenue since we've been on it. And it's really been on the back of improving our revenue per session, our conversion rate, and our AOV. So if you want to start adding dollars to your bottom line today, go to intelligems.io. Let them know the Tactical and Practical podcast sent you, and you can join me in making more money today. All right, first scenario. When performance is good and you know exactly why. The best scenario of all time. First up, celebrate it. Celebrate wins in business. None of them happen by accident. Make sure everybody in your organization knows that it's going well and are celebrating it with you. I spent half my college days on bus rides to and from baseball games. And when things were winning, those bus rides were fun. That's what it should feel like inside your business when things are going well. You should make everyone feel like you're on the bus ride home from an away game on a Saturday night. You just demolished the other team. You're going to get home, shower, and party. That's what it should feel like. After you force everyone to acknowledge and celebrate how well things are going, you need to make sure that you keep it going. You need to make sure that the good times are going to keep rolling here. So I want you to call out specifically what's working now and double down on it. If new ad creative is ripping, make more creatives that share the same message or style. If there's a new content test on your website that's crushing, make sure you're using similar content and messaging across your entire marketing funnel in ads and emails. Take this opportunity to praise members of your team whose areas of focus are absolutely helping you hit all your goals right now. And if you're a one-man team, take this opportunity to shout out recent work you've done. Things are going well right now because we built a new landing page that's outperforming our old one. Good news with a reason. Now, you better make sure that's the real reason that performance is crushing before you start doing it, because otherwise it's going to come off as bragging and you're going to get exposed. But if you truly understand the reason why things are going well right now, then it's your duty to educate leadership on why it's working. This is the time to focus on compounding these wins. Take what you learned from something winning in your Facebook ad account or in your website and see how many areas of your marketing funnel you can apply those learnings to. Don't waste a win. Make sure every win comes with a learning that you can use to improve other channels, verticals, tactics, whatever it is. Now, that's what you can do to double and triple it down on what specifically is working now, but this is also a great time to suggest new tactics. When things are going well, there's never a better time to call out a new initiative or resource you want to start working with. The feeling of winning is addictive. So there's no better time to get approval for something than when things are going great. You can tell leadership, hey, listen, things are great now and they're great because of X, Y, and Z. But if we just got a little bit better at A, B, and C, things would be even better. So I'm asking for this budget or this resource or this software or whatever it is. Basically use this as an opportunity to keep the ball rolling in the right direction. All right, that's scenario number one. Scenario number two, when performance is good and you don't know why. Step one, still celebrate it. It should still feel like that bus ride coming home, right? To me, like this scenario is embodies the saying in golf that there's no pictures on the scorecard, right? When you tee off on a par four, and if you're me, you slice it right, 45 yards, you're under some bushes, you're not in a good spot at all. So then you take like a 6-iron and you hack it out of there up towards the green and you end up 30 yards short in a fairway bunker. So then you step up to that bunker shot, got maybe like a 52 degree. You take a hack at it. All you see and taste is sand. It comes up everywhere. But the ball ends up 2 feet away from the pin. And you take your tap in for par. You say there's no pictures on the scorecard. You only did one thing right on that hole, but it was enough to walk away with a par. That's the same case in business when things are ripping. Even if you can't point to one thing, you can call out something that worked. That 30-yard pitch shot from the bunker worked. You can't attribute the entirety of the success to it, but that was the thing that made it all okay. So you can tell leadership, hey, listen, this doesn't, account for all of the positive increase in performance right now, but here are three things that are doing well. This new ad campaign is crushing. Our new welcome flow email has a great click-through rate. The new headline on the homepage is winning the split test right now. Even if adding all those things up together doesn't account for the increase in performance, still call it out because you want to reinforce to everyone on the team that the work you're doing is clearly paying off. Even if you can't measure every aspect of it, even if you can't prove any one of those things led to this increase, it is rising performance. This is definitely a great time to call some initiatives too, and you can use some of the uncertainty of why this is going right to get some new things approved as well. So you can say, hey team, things are going well right now. A lot of things are doing good. Not exactly sure what's driving all of it, but as I dug into the data, I noticed some vulnerabilities. I noticed some cracks that are starting to show, and I'd like to get ahead of them while things are still good. Because if we don't improve X, Y, and Z, things could go south fast. So let's invest in this new tactic, new resource, etc. It's a great time to have a conversation like that with your team. All right, we covered what happened when things are going good. And you might think that's all overkill for communication when things are going good, but it's really going to come into play during these next two scenarios when performance is bad. Look at those scenarios as trust-building exercises so your team starts to understand what's actually happening in the business and almost more importantly, how you approach it. Because right now, you're going to need them to trust you because this scenario is performance is bad. You do know why, but performance is still bad. First up, you need to calmly acknowledge that performance is bad during your next regularly scheduled performance update. Don't run panicked to your boss like my friend did earlier and bombard them with updates that they didn't ask for because it'll clearly show that you're out of control and you are not confident in what's happening right now. So calmly acknowledge that performance is bad during the next regularly scheduled performance update. For us, that's never longer than a week away. Next, you need to show data that proves beyond a doubt why performance is bad. This needs to be undeniable, that you know exactly what has gone wrong, because you're going to need leadership to get behind your proposed solution, and they're not going to keep their confidence in you unless you convince them 100% that you have accurately identified the problem. So come with data, show that data was good during a good time in the business, show them the day it started to get bad, and show them what the last, 7, 14, 30 days have been like with that metric performing poorly. So you can 100% prove to them, hey, this is the culprit. Next, you need to show them that you have a detailed and realistic plan on how to fix that problem. Since you know exactly what the variable is that's not going well, you should understand how to fix it. If you don't, I did an episode on this a few weeks ago where I share a spreadsheet of all the metrics I look at weekly. I think the episode's called Don't Confuse Symptoms for a Diagnosis or something. It's all about how to accurately identify these problems. And if you're tracking all these metrics consistently, it'll be easy to see what's improved and what has regressed since the last time you checked them. So let's say it's costing you more money to get a site visitor, and you check your Facebook ad account and CPMs have stayed flat, but your click-through rate has tanked. You can turn off any new ad creative you've launched recently, relied on older, better performing creative, and you can give feedback to your creative team that, hey, this latest batch of content didn't work. Problem, cause, solution. If you know what's going wrong, it should be that simple. Now, another important thing to do here, anytime performance is bad, is to figure out and acknowledge if this problem is a one-time thing, a short-term thing, a fluke, or is this something that your business is particularly susceptible to? i.e., is this a problem that's going to keep happening? Because if it is, you can't just look at a Band-Aid. You can't just look at a short-term solution. You need to look at something that can get ahead of this problem in the long term. So look back at the last 6 months, few months, 18 months, and see if there are any signs leading up to this that showed this problem could be coming. If there was, don't be afraid of calling it out now. Hindsight is 20/20. And your team's going to understand that. You can tell leadership, hey, you know what? I checked the data again. Our click-through rate has actually been on a steady decline for 12 months. But we were able to overcome it because our new ad channels were more efficient than Facebook was, so it covered it up a little bit. And all of the work we've done testing our website kind of covered it up because our revenue per session have improved. So even though our cost per site visitor had gone up, our revenue per session went up faster, and we were able to overcome it. Now the problem has gotten too bad, and our cost to get someone to the site kept getting higher and higher and higher, and it's no longer outpacing the work we're doing on the CRO send. And so now we need to implement a long-term solution to reverse this trend. Now, that doesn't mean you can throw out the short-term solution. You might have to do both. You might say, you know what, this is a long-term problem. We, in hindsight, can see where it started and how long it's been brewing. But even though it's a long-term problem that we need a long-term solution for, we also need things to get better right now. So in the short term, we're going to turn off that recent creative that's not doing well. We're going to turn back on some older creative, and I'm going to hire 2 freelancers to each make us a new batch of ads quickly. That's short-term Band-Aid. Now, the long-term solution, I want to post a job for a new full-time creator or a new creative director, someone who can own this lane for us and make sure that this problem never happens again. That's your long-term solution here. So, to recap, performance is not good, and you know exactly why. Show data proving you understand what the problem is, and show a detailed and realistic plan of how you're going to fix that, both in the short and long term. Last thing I'll say here, if you are about to tell your boss that the current bad performance is a fluke, is a one-time thing that'll never happen again, you better be damn sure. Damn sure. In fact, I don't even, the scenarios I can think of that happening are slim. Even if you want to say, oh, well, the election CPMs were crazy and we couldn't overcome them in October. Yeah, that sounds like a fluke, but there's going to be a midterm election in 2 years. There's going to be another presidential election in 4 years. So this is a problem that's going to come back. It's not always just a one-time thing. Make sure you have a plan for that too. Because if you don't hear, sorry, I'm going off script here, but I think it's important. If you get in a habit of telling your boss that certain things are a one-time problem and they keep popping up and up and up again, you are not going to keep that job for long. So if you think anything is truly a fluke, look for all of the data in the world to support that. And only make that claim once, because you do not want to be the boy who cried wolf on that. All right, number 4, the nightmare scenario for marketers. This is where you're going to need the most trust from your team. This is what do you do when performance is bad and you don't know why. I've been there. It fucking sucks. But it happens to the best of us, and you need to know how to communicate with leadership before you can even begin to understand how to fix the problem. So again, you want to first calmly acknowledge that performance is bad. Don't show panic. Don't freak out. It's okay for you to panic internally for a minute. But take a walk. Go outside. Get some sunlight. Take a deep breath before you go to anyone. But go to them. You want to be the one to acknowledge, hey, performance is bad. It's also healthy to admit that you don't have one metric to point to. You don't have a single individual cause to place the entirety of the blame on. But you better point out a few things that you can control and you can show have decreased performance. You can say, these don't entirely account for the dip in performance, but we know CPMs on Facebook got more expensive. We know our conversion rate is slightly down year over year. We know our AOV has plateaued and we're not able to increase it. When you add all of those things up, it doesn't account for the entire problem, but working on improving those things will help. Falling back on tactics that have previously benefited you and have previously improved those metrics is a great place to start. I like kind of going back to basics here and suggesting relying on work that has a proven track record of working for you, because there's not going to be any arguments about it. It's not a theory. It's just getting back to basics, executing your bread and butter tactics a little bit better and maybe a little bit differently than you've done them before. But the odds are, if you've had constant success executing your playbook, then it's probably not the playbook that's all of a sudden out of date. Might be other stuff going on, but if you go back to your bread and butter, go execute the tactics that have led to a lot of success in the past and just try to do them a little bit better, a little bit differently. That's going to help, and that can actually inspire confidence in the team to be like, hey, performance sucks right now. There's a couple of things that look out of whack. It doesn't really account for everything, but I know for a fact when our marketing team makes new creative and tests these 4 elements of the website and tests this in our email and SMS flows, every single time we've executed that, performance has gotten better. So that's what we're going to go do. Next, maybe the problem persists or you think it's a bigger issue. You should look at new tactics that you've thought of before but never needed. You should already know what these are, and you should have already talked to them about leadership. Talk to leadership about them. Internally, we call these tactics our oh shit levers. Like, what are we going to do one day if stuff actually hits the fan? We've talked about these, sometimes in professional meetings, sometimes over a couple glasses of whiskey. But do you slash prices? Do you run a BOGO sale? Do you do something crazy like change the entire targeting system of your Facebook ads? Performance is good right now for us at OG. And to be honest, it's been really good for a few years now. But you could call my boss today and ask him, hey, what would Nate do if performance was really bad right now? He would be able to tell you that I'd test our prices lower and higher than we ever have. I might try some big BOGO or bundle deals. I might launch ads on Trade Desk, or I might invest more heavily in AppLovin or YouTube ads. I'd continue to execute the tactics that have worked for us, which is testing new content on our website and ad account. But the key is none of those things would be a surprise to him. He knows what those things are today. So if I come to him in a month, I say, hey, performance is bad. I'm not exactly sure why. These few things for sure aren't going well, but they don't account for all of this. And out of our existing playbook, I'm stumped on what to do. So I'm going to turn the page to the back of the playbook that we've already talked about. That is our oh shit levers. And I'm going to go pull on all of those. And we're going to see which ones can help get us going in the right direction. But again, because these aren't ideas I'm pulling out of my ass, because these are ideas that we have talked about, they're proven to work by other brands already, then we're going to be able to get through this rough patch without screaming at each other and without arguing about what to do, because it's stuff that's already been communicated. Even if you don't know what the problem is here, look at your trend lines again to determine, is this a one-time thing or is this going to be an ongoing, long-lasting problem that is going to require a long-term solution? Because if performance has steadily been getting worse for the last 6 months, you probably can't just stick to old tactics. You might have to rewrite the playbook. And I would acknowledge that to your team. If you've been doing this right the whole time, then nothing you suggest when performance is bad should surprise leadership. Maybe 3 months ago, you were great and you told them, hey, things are great right now, but we also should be working on X, Y, and Z. If they didn't listen to you and X, Y, Z hasn't improved by them, then now's a great time to revisit it. Don't go to them screaming, I told you so, but you can go to them and explain like, hey, I saw that this could be a potential thing to hurt us a couple of months ago. At the time, we as a leadership team decided not to invest in it, and that was okay back then, but it's not okay right now. So now we need to fix it. That's the importance of communicating in this style before performance ever drops off. even when everything is running smoothly, because one day things won't run smoothly. And if your team isn't used to effective, solution oriented conversation, then you're not going to handle the bad times very well. So that's how I suggest communicating marketing performance to leadership during the good times and the bad. Please, please, please learn from mistakes I've made with this in my career. I've been a part of orgs that are amazing at this. And at times in my career, I was not good at this. But this style and format of communication from the CMO or the VP of marketing to the CEO and the owners, this is going to help you. Whether performance is great or terrible, this will keep your entire team rowing in the same direction, in unison. And that's the most important thing. Thanks so much for listening to Tactical and Practical. I'd really appreciate it if you sent this episode to someone who you think could use this message. If you're a CEO and wish your marketing team would communicate to you like this, send it to them. If you're a CMO and you're not sure if your boss would value this style of communication, send it to them and say, hey, would this help us? Would me updating you like this outlines help us stay on the same page through good times and bad? Because that's what this is all about. That's what e-com is about. How aligned, focused, and determined can you keep your team? That's what's going to get you out of the bad times. Thanks for listening to Tactical and Practical. Please hit me up on Twitter at Nate Legos if you have any questions, comments, concerns, and I'll see you next time.